Commander Elena Vasquez stared at the tactical display, watching the crimson dots of the Krillix fleet descend toward Earth like falling stars of death. 47 vessels, each the size of a small city, bearing weapons that had already glassed 3 colonies in the Outer Rim. The alien armada had given humanity 72 hours to surrender unconditionally or face extinction. That deadline had expired 6 minutes ago. "Ma'am," Lieutenant Torres called from the communications station, his voice tight with barely controlled fear. "The Krillix are broadcasting on all frequencies. They're demanding we prepare for processing." Elena's jaw clenched. Processing, such a clinical term for the systematic harvesting of an entire species. The Krillix had done it before, to the peaceful Etherians, the warrior poets of Valdris Prime, and countless others whose names were now nothing more than entries in xenological databases. "Any word from the fleet?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. Earth's defenses consisted of 32 ships, cobbled together from military vessels, converted cargo haulers, and even luxury liners hastily retrofitted with whatever weapons humanity could mount. Against the Krillix war machine, it was like bringing pocket knives to fight dragons. "Admiral Chen reports all ships are in position," Torres replied. He's asking for final orders." Elena closed her eyes for a moment, thinking of her daughter Sophia, probably huddled in one of the deep shelters with millions of other civilians. She thought of the morning coffee shops in New Geneva, the street musicians in Lagos, the children playing in the parks of Neo-Singapore. All of it about to be reduced to ash and memory. The smart play would be surrender. Accept processing. Hope that some small remnant of humanity might survive as slaves or specimens in Krillix collection facilities. But Elena Vasquez had not become the youngest commander in the Sol Defense Force by making smart plays. "Open a channel to the fleet," she ordered. "All ships, all frequencies." The bridge fell silent except for the hum of electronics and the distant vibration of the station's massive fusion reactors. Elena stepped forward, placing her hand on the tactical display where Earth hung like a blue jewel surrounded by an ocean of black. "This is Commander Vasquez to all Sol defense vessels," she began, her voice steady despite the tremor in her chest. "I won't lie to you. We're outgunned, outmanned, and outclassed. The Krillix have technology we can barely comprehend and firepower that could crack planets. By every logical calculation, we should surrender." She paused, watching the display as her words reached the scattered fleet. Cargo haulers with jury-rigged railguns, patrol boats bristling with improvised missile pods, the ancient battleship Constellation, held together more by stubbornness than structural integrity. "But here's what the Krillix don't understand about humanity," Elena continued. "We've never been good at accepting the logical choice when it means abandoning everything we hold dear. When the first humans looked up at the stars, logic said we'd never reach them. When we faced plagues, logic said we'd all die. When we split the atom, logic said we'd destroy ourselves." On the display, the Krillix fleet had formed into attack formation, their massive ships beginning to glow with the buildup of charged particle weapons. "We didn't choose this fight," Elena said, her voice rising. "The fight chose us. And we're going to answer the way humanity has always answered when faced with extinction, with defiance, with courage, and with the absolute refusal to go quietly into the dark." The first Krillix salvo lit up space like a miniature sun. Elena watched as the energy beams lanced toward Earth's orbital defenses, but the human fleet was already moving. Not retreating, charging. The cargo hauler Spirit of Mumbai was the first to make contact, ramming directly into a Krillix destroyer while firing every weapon it had. Both ships erupted in a ball of plasma and debris, but the explosion took out 2 more alien vessels caught in the blast. "All ships, this is Admiral Chen," came the veteran commander's voice over the comm. "Pattern Delta. Hit them hard, hit them fast, and make every shot count. For Earth." The response was immediate and overwhelming. "For Earth," echoed from 31 ships as they dove into the heart of the Krillix formation. Missiles streaked across the void. Railgun rounds punched through alien armor. The ancient Constellation fired its main guns, weapons designed to crack asteroids directly into the command ship's bridge. Elena watched in amazement as the impossible began to happen. The Krillix, for all their technological superiority, had never faced an enemy quite like humanity. They had conquered species that fought with logic, with calculated strategy, with the careful preservation of resources and lives. They had never faced a species that would turn cargo ships into guided missiles, that would sacrifice cruisers to take out enemy flagships, that would charge into certain death with nothing but defiance and the desperate hope that their sacrifice might buy their homeworld just a few more precious minutes. The patrol boat Jakarta exploded after taking direct hits, but not before launching every torpedo it carried into the engine core of a Krillix dreadnought. The luxury liner Serenity, converted into a missile platform, held its position even as alien fire tore through its hull, continuing to launch attacks until its power core finally gave out. "Commander!" Torres shouted over the din of battle. "Long-range sensors are picking up something. Ships dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the system." Elena's heart sank. Reinforcements. The Krillix had called for reinforcements. But then Torres looked up with an expression of wonder and disbelief. "Ma'am, they're not Krillix. They're everything else. Etherian survivors, Valdris ships, species I don't even recognize. They're all broadcasting the same message." "What message?" Elena demanded. Torres' voice cracked with emotion as he replied, "For humanity. For the ones who chose to fight." As Elena watched, the tide of battle began to turn. The scattered survivors of a dozen conquered worlds, inspired by humanity's impossible stand, had come to answer their own call to defiance. Together, the combined fleet of the Defiant began to push back against the Krillix war machine. In the end, it would be remembered not as the day humanity was saved, but as the day the galaxy learned that sometimes, when faced with an impossible choice, the only logical response is to reject logic entirely. The fight had chosen them all, and they had answered as one.